Very good morning to all of you. Now, the today topic, the balance part of registration that we will complete. So let please answer some of my question of the last class. In case if I am making interest rate supply, then what is the threshold limit of goods and what is the threshold limit for services? Goods nil, services 20 lakh. Okay. Interest compulsory registration. Okay. Goods compulsory. Ankit, you are coming first time, is it? Ankit Kumar Pandit. Are you coming regularly or only today you have attended the first class?
No, sir. I attended earlier also. I have written a recorded of last classes.
Okay, great, great. So fine, for goods, it is mandatory, and for services, you can enjoy the limit of 20 lakhs. Now, the one question which is being asked by Saminathan, let me repeat that question. If the person only supply export of goods less than 20 lakh, is the registration exempted? Please advise. Saminathan, again, you are doing one mistake. Before answering to your question, let me repeat my question. Saminathan, I have told you that I have asked this all that what is the threshold limit for interstate taxable supply of the goods and interstate taxable supply of services? What was your answer? That is not correct. Which one is correct? If you make interstate taxable supply of the goods, it is mandatory registration. The 20 lakh limit is not applicable. Services, it is 20 lakh available. So, if we do the export as per section 7 subsection 5 of IGST Act, as per section 7 subsection 5 of IGST Act, the export is an interstate supply. Therefore, the registration is mandatorily required if it is goods. But if it is services, even if you are doing the export, it is taxable supply, but you can enjoy the threshold limit of 20 lakh. Is that your question answered? Right, Saminathan. So, Abhi, so just confirm whatever the question you have asked, that is answered. For export, because it is interstate, therefore it is mandatory registration for goods. Absolutely, Yogesh. Very right. Mandatory registration required for export, Sanjay. For only export, yeah, export of goods. See, mandatory registration required because of interstate. So it is export of the goods, mandatory. Export of service, 20 lakhs. Correct. So now let me move further. Physical verification of the business premises in certain cases. I think we were talking about Rule 10A. A taxpayer has an option to give the bank account after obtaining the registration within 30 days from the date of the grant of the registration or due date of the furnishing of the outward supply, whichever is earlier, that we have discussed yesterday, last class. This relaxation is not available who has been granted registration as TDS deductor or TCS collector under Rule 12 or suo motu registration under Rule 16. They are mandatorily required to be furnish the bank account detail at the time of filing the application for registration. In which case the registration can be obtained without pen, in which case the registration can be obtained without permanent account number. See, normally I know that PAN number is mandatory, but tell me in which case the registration can be granted even without PAN. Allow me 1 minute. There is some network issue. Uh, when the proper officer is set, so now we are talking about, to answer to the previous question. Answer to the previous question is that TDS registration can be taken on the basis of the 10 instead of pen. The NRTP registration can be granted, but as per the procedure prescribed. Now let me talk about physical verification of the business premises in certain cases where the officer is satisfied that physical verification of the place of the business is required. After the grant of the registration, he may get such verification of the place of the business done, and the verification report along with other document including photograph shall be uploaded in the prescribed form on the common portal within 15 days. Where the physical verification is required before the grant of the registration in circumstances as we discussed earlier. Geet, you were not there in the last two classes, you were not there. Then the physical verification of the place of the business is required before the grant of the registration. The officer shall get such verification of the place of the business done, and the verification report along with the document, including photograph, shall be uploaded in the prescribed form on the common portal at least 5 working days prior to the completion of the time period specified in the proviso. Now we are talking about Rule 10. Rule 10 is very simple. No problem, Geet. Thank you. Where the application, see, we all know that the GST is 10-digit number. GST registration in 10-digit number, where the application for grant of the registration has been approved and certificate of the registration duly signed or verified through EVC in REG 6, showing the PPOB and APOB, principal place of the business or additional place of the business, is made available to the applicant on the common portal. The GSTIN number, that is GST registration, is communicated to the applicant within 3 days from the grant of the registration. Display of the registration certificate and the GSTIN number on the name board. Every registered person shall display the certificate in a prominent location at his principal place and at every additional place. Further, his GSTIN also has to be displayed on the name board exist at the entry of his principal place and at every additional place. What is the effective date of the registration? If you are mandatorily liable to take registration, in that case, date on which you become liable to be registered. And if the registration has been obtained after 30 days, then date of the grant of the registration. So here is my one question. You tell me, what is the use of the effective date of registration? Or you can say also that where this concept has been used in the ITC chapter. Where this concept has been used for ITC chapter. Absolutely correct, Sanjay, Samyanathan, and Geet. Yogesh, Ankit, what is your view? When yes, Sanjay, right. So 18 subsection 1 says that the day when I become, so ITC in case of special circumstances, point number 1. In that case also, ITC in case of the special circumstances, in that we all know that whatever the stock lying in your hand on the day immediately preceding the effective date of registration. So if you applied within 30 days, then you can take the ITC of the stock lying on the hand on the immediately date before the effective date of registration. And if you apply after 30 days, then the problem is the grant of the certificate. उसके पहले का जो भी stock होगा, you can take the ITC. So that is a loss. Now the special provision for casual taxable person and non-resident taxable person. The certificate of the registration issued to the CTP or NRTP shall be valid for the period specified in the application for registration or maximum kitna din? 90 days from the effective date of registration, whichever is earlier. It means if he like to apply for only 10 days, he can apply for 10 days also. Then such person shall make the taxable supply only after the issuance of the certificate of registration, provided that officer make on the sufficient cause being shown by the said taxable person extend the said period of the 90 days by a further period not exceeding 90 days. A CTP or NRTP shall, at the time of the submission of the application, make an advance deposit of the tax. It means if I am going for this category of the registration, section 27 says I need to pay the deposit, I need to pay the advance tax. How it will be calculated? It will be calculated on the estimated turnover multiplied by tax rate. Then estimated tax liability will come and then which need to be deposited. So when you go into the GST portal, so casual taxable person, that is only normal category of the registration. So he will apply the normal category of the registration, apply the REG01, and then once he click the casual taxable person, automatically the additional field wherein he has to report the tax rate, tax amount, taxable value, he can report the taxable value against the tax rate. So tax amount will come which he need to deposit. Then only he can submit the application. Neither TRN nor registration certificate, Saminathan, it has to see, repeating once again, when you apply REG1, when the TRN would be allocated. Okay, you are talking about once part A is completed, that you mean to say. Okay, right. Once part is completed, TRN number would be allocated. We'll log in through TRN number. When you proceed to the part B, then in the first tab, you will tick, there would be the one tick checkbox that are you applying for casual taxable person. Once you click on that casual taxable person, then they will give the additional field to report the estimated taxable value against the specific rate. Automatically the tax amount will come. Okay, then that you need to deposit after part A. Absolutely correct. Yes, Yogesh, yes, Geet. Right, Saminathan. So when you proceed to the part B, then you, till the time you will not click and not pay the tax, you cannot proceed to file the part B. Provided that where any extension of the time is sought under subsection 1, extension of the time, it means initial 90 days is there, he can extend further 90 more days. He can extend further maximum 90 days. So if he apply for the extension of the time, then he will deposit an additional amount of the tax equivalent to the estimated liability for the period for which the extension is sought. The amount deposited under subsection 2 shall be credited to the cash ledger. In case of long running exhibition, the taxable person cannot be treated as casual taxable person, and he would require to obtain registration as a normal taxable person. That is correct, Samanathan. Suppose I have excess deposited the tax, or suppose estimated liability, or suppose I have not granted the registration at all. I have applied the part A plus part B. Then in that case, the registration, if not approved or cancelled or something rejected my application, then I will not grant the registration as the casual taxable person. In that case, what happened? Whatever the tax I have deposited, I can file the refund application. So that we will discuss in the interest part. We will discuss, Samanathan, in the refund chapter if it is being taken care by me. While applying the normal registration, the said person shall upload the copy of the allotment letter granting him permission to use the premises for exhibition, and the allotment letter shall be treated as the proper document as proof for his place of business. In such case, he would not require to pay the advance tax. For the purpose of the registration, he can surrender once the exhibition is over. That was written in the circular 71. As per section 26, the grant of the registration or the UIN under any act shall be treated the registration under other act. Meaning thereby, if you have given the registration and you have been assigned to the SGST department, then it will be deemed that CGST has also granted the registration to you. So if the registration has been granted under the SGST, it will be deemed that you granted the registration under this act. This act means CGST Act, subject to the condition that application for the registration or the UIN has not been rejected. Notwithstanding anything contained, any rejection shall be deemed to be the rejection under this act. Same वही वाली बात हुई, same repetition. If the registration has been granted under SGST, it will be deemed that you have granted the registration under CGST also. Similarly, if application has been rejected under the SGST, then it will be treated that your application under the CGST has also been rejected. The special provision. The special provision for the grant of registration in case of the person required to deduct the tax at source under section 51 or collect the tax at source, deduct the tax at source or collect the tax at source under section 52. An application for registration has to be submitted in a different prescribed form at GST common portal. They would be granted registration within 3 working days from the date of the submission of the application after due verification. When a person is applying for registration to collect the TCS or to deduct the TDS in a state where he does not have the physical presence, very important. A person is applying for the registration to collect the TDS or TCS where he does not have the physical presence. In that case, he shall mention the name of the state in the part A of the prescribed application form for registration. Further, the name of the state in which his principal place of the business is located is to be mentioned in the part B. क्या मतलब हुआ? Part A and part B. The state number may differ only in case of the TDS and TCS registration. Therefore, may be different. Special provision for grant of the registration in case of person supplying OIDAR from a place outside India to a non-taxable online recipient, or person supplying online money gaming from a place outside India to a person in India. Application for registration has to be submitted in a different prescribed form. They would been granted registration subject to the condition and restriction and by such officer as may be notified by the central government on the recommendation of the council. A registered person on the UIN may need to make some changes or amendment in the registration application. There are the two categories. One is the core field and one is the non-core field. Now we are talking about amendment of registration. So what is your question? Or Samanasana, you are just copying the text only for the reference. You are just putting some. So, sir, Samanathan, the same point we have discussed right now, right? If you go back to the previous slide, this point that you have done the copy paste, that same point we have discussed. Correct. So only the query to be posted after discussing the relevant provision. Okay. That would be better. Now the amendment of registration. When we talk about the GST, there is two category of the amendment. One is the core field and one is the non-core field. Core field means name of the business. If there is no change in the PAN, Second, addition or deletion of the stakeholder. Third, PPOB or additional place of the business. Core field are name of the business, that is legal name if there is no change in the pen. And if I ask if there is a change in the pen, then it is which type of the amendment. अगर नाम पेन नंबर चेंज है, then it is which type of the amendment. Absolutely correct, Geet. Geet has given the correct answer. Yogesh has given the correct answer. Any other answer? Ayush, if there is a change in the permanent account number, then it is which type of the amendment? Answer is it is not the amendment at all. Because if your PAN number is changed, then you have to obtain the new registration. So like father has expired and his son like to continue the business. Like father has expired due to the COVID and his son like to continue that business. Can he do so by using the father's GST number? No, because PAN number is changed. So he like to make the amendment in the father's GST number. Again, answer is no, because any changes which result into the change in the PAN number would require the new registration and surrender existing GST number. ठीक है? What are the 5 things? If name of the business, then addition or deletion of the stakeholder, principal place of the business, additional place of the business. Well, only 4. All other fields are non-core field like number, etc. In case of the changes is the core information. In the registration application, the taxable person will apply the amendment within 15 days of the event. The proper officer then will approve the amendment in the next 15 days. For other changes, non-core information, no approval is required and the amendment can be affected by the taxable person on his own on the common portal. Where a changes in the constitution of any business result in the change in the permanent account number. That was my question. He said apply the fresh registration. Correct? क्या करना पड़ेगा? उसे he need to apply the new registration only. Similarly, the application for amendment cannot be filled if there is a change in the place of the business from one state to the other because of the GST registration are state specific. If the proper officer failed to take any action, how many days? Within 15 days from the date of the submission of the amendment, or within a period of the 7 working days in case if officer has issued the supposed notice and reply has been given by him, and thus within 7 days, 7 working days, if the officer does not take any action, then it will be deemed approved. Certificate shall be amended to the extent applied, or amendment certificate shall be made available on the common portal. Now we are talking about very important point. Cancellation or suspension of registration. Now, before moving, tell me only one thing, that in case of section 10, which return would be filed by the section 10 registered person? form number if possible. My question is, section 10 registered person required to file which return? Section 10 means composition. उन्हें कौन सा रिटर्न फाइल करना है? Correct. And what is the frequency? What is the frequency? Correct. They need to file only one return on yearly basis, that is GSTR 4. They need to file only one return, that is GSTR 4. But if I like to payment of taxes, they have to pay the taxes on quarterly basis through CMP 08. It is not CMP 04. It is CMP 08. ठीक है. So GSTR 4 is yearly or quarterly? GSTR 4 is yearly or quarterly? It is yearly. And what is the quarterly? The quarterly is not the return. Quarterly is the statement of payment of tax, that is CMP 08. ठीक है. Now, as per the 56th GST Council meeting, I can say it will be the system driven. So then I can say the strict deadline would be followed. Mr. Geet. ठीक है. Now we are talking about circumstances when the registration can be cancelled either suo motu by the officer or an application of the registered person or his legal heir. The section 29 subsection 1, officer may either his own motion or an application filed by the registered person or by his legal heir in case of the death cancel the registration in such manner, such period as may be prescribed, where having regard to the circumstances where the business has been discontinued or transferred fully for any reason including death of the proprietor, amalgamated with other legal entities, demerged or otherwise disposed of, if there is change in the constitution of the business. Correct. Just now we talked about if there is a change in the constitution, means the PAN number is changed or proprietorship become partnership, partnership become private limited, which result into the change in the PAN. It required the surrender of the existing GST number and the new registration would be taken. If the taxable person no longer liable to be registered under 22 or 24 or intend to opt out of the registration voluntarily made under section 25 subsection 3. Earlier, if the person obtained the registration voluntarily, they have to keep for 1 year. But later on, very initial days, later on they have amended, and if someone has taken the voluntary registration and like to surrender, he can surrender. Provided that during the pendency of the proceeding relating to the cancellation, the registration may be suspended for such period and in such manner as may be prescribed. So the time you apply for cancellation, it will go into the suspended category. Now the circumstances where the registration can be cancelled either suo moto by the officer or an application of the registered person by the legal heir, in case of the application by the registered person or by his legal heir. 29 subsection 2 talks about the officer may cancel the registration from such date, including retrospective date, as he may deem fit. The problem is registration can be cancelled retrospectively also. And what happened? If the registration is cancelled retrospectively, the problem is the ITC of all the recipient would be question mark, would be denied by the department during the visit. See, I have purchased in 2017 or let's say 2021. And that supplier ka registration is being cancelled retrospectively. Then what happened? My purchase would be question mark at the time of audit, that you are not eligible to take the ITC because you have purchased from the cancelled taxpayer. That is really problematic. Let's see what happened. The officer may cancel the registration, including retrospective date. Clause A. The registered person has contravened the provision of the act or the rules made thereunder. A person paying the tax under section 10 has not furnished the return for a financial year beyond 3 months from the due date of furnishing the said return. Can anybody tell me which return they are talking about? Which forms they are talking about here? GSTR 4. Yes. GSTR 4. I think for a financial year return. Returns, what is the return? Only GSTR 4. And what is the due date? Can anybody tell me what is the due date of the GSTR 4? Can anybody tell me what is the due date of the due date of the GSTR 4 is 30th हाँ 30th June. Earlier it was 30th April. So if the return is not filed within 3 months from the due date, so earlier it was 30th April, now it is 30th June. And if the return is not filed till 30th June, in that case, within 3 months, the registration can be cancelled suo moto by the officer. Suo moto by the officer. Now, what is the next? The next is other than specified in the clause B has not furnished the return for such continuous period as may be prescribed. So now the section 29 subsection 2 does not talk about regular category of the taxpayer, that if they do not file the return, then registration would be cancelled. It is being given in the rule. They are saying that if any person other than section 10, that is section 9, means they are talking about regular GST registration, means the person who is filing the GSTR 3B, GSTR 1. So what is the frequency? If they do not file, then the return would be cancelled. The frequency is being given in the rule. So just wait for some time. Once we will reach to the rule, then I can again correlate. But if you have any experience, any idea, can you tell me? Do you have any idea in case of the regular category of the GST registration, if they do not file the return within how many days or what is the frequency, then registration can be cancelled by the officer? Correct. So you almost correct, but okay, we'll discuss in the upcoming slide. No, Sanjay, not it is 30th September or 3 months, something like that. For some tax period, it is there. Correct. So various participant is given the correct answer, but just wait, let me reach to the rule and then we'll discuss. Taken. Any person who has taken the voluntarily registration and has not commenced the business within 6 months from the date of the registration. Meaning, if someone has taken the voluntarily and he is filing the nil return, he is filing the nil return. What does it mean? It means he does not commence the business at all. In that case, the registration can be cancelled. A registration has been opted for fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of the fact. Now, whenever they will cancel, because cancellation is a negative action against the taxpayer, then they will have to give the opportunity of being heard. Correct? Provided further that during the pendency relating to the cancellation, officer may suspend the registration in such manner as may be prescribed. So registration can also be suspended. Now, any question? This was for okay. Okay, we'll discuss. We'll discuss, Sanjay. You are partially correct, no doubt. We'll discuss. The cancellation under this section shall not affect the liability. Very, very important. Very, very important. See, when you apply for cancellation, the cancellation order will be issued which talks about the liability as 00000. Does it mean that now there is no liability of that person? Officer does not have the power to calculate the liability for the period prior to the cancellation? Answer is yes, they have the power. The section 29 subsection 3 clearly says the cancellation does not have any effect on the liability to pay the tax or other dues under this act or to discharge any obligation or the rules made thereunder for any period prior to the date of cancellation, whether or not such tax are determined before or even after the date of the cancellation. Every registered person whose registration is cancelled shall pay an amount by way of the debit in electronic credit ledger or electronic cash ledger. Why? whose registration is cancelled shall pay the amount by way of the debit in the electronic credit or cash ledger equivalent to the credit of input tax in respect of input held in stock, input contained in finished goods or semi-finished goods held in stock or capital goods or plant and machinery on the immediately preceding the date of the cancellation. See, try to understand. They have made two things. They are saying if the registration is cancelled, then shall pay the amount by way of the debit. Kitna amount? How much amount? Equivalent to the credit of input tax, equivalent to the ITC of stock, capital goods, finished goods, or plant and machinery on the day immediately preceding the date of the cancellation. Okay, or the output tax liability on such goods, whichever is higher. Meaning thereby, if I have the stock of 10 unit, and let's say the liability comes to 1000 rupees, tax liability comes to 1000 rupees, but my ITC is only 700 rupees. The 10 stock is there, ITC is lying in my ledger on the closing, on the date immediately preceding the date of cancellation is 700. I have to pay the 700 or 1000, whichever is higher. Meaning thereby I have to pay 1000 rupees, 700 by debiting the credit ledger and 300 by debiting the cash ledger. Provided that in case of the capital goods or plant and machinery, the taxable person shall pay the amount equal to the ITC taken on said capital goods, reduced by such percentage point as may be prescribed, or the tax on the transaction value under section this one, whichever is higher. We all know that the capital goods or plant and machinery, we have talked about the life in the ITC chapter. Okay. So they are saying in case of the capital goods or plant and machinery, the taxable person shall pay the amount equal to the ITC taken on the capital goods or plant and machinery, reduced by such percentage point as may be prescribed. How much? How much percentage? 5% per quarter or part thereof. Absolutely correct. ठीक है. Or the tax on the transaction value, whichever is higher. ठीक है. Now let's move further to the rule 21. What is the rule 21? Rule 21 says that registration to be cancelled. A registration can be cancelled if the said person does not conduct the business from the declared place of the business, issue the invoice or bill without supply, fake invoicing, anti-profiteering, violated the provision of section 171, violated the provision of the rule 10A. What is the rule 10A? What is this? Can anybody tell me what is the violated the provision of the rule 10A? क्या मतलब हुआ इसका? Yes. What is the provision of the rule 10A? Correct. So this is talking about furnishing the bank detail. Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Geet, for elaborating the point. So this is adding the bank account detail within 30 days or from the due date of the GSTR1, whichever is. So whatever we have discussed, we have already covered. That is the adding the bank account detail. avail the ITC in violation of the provision of section 16 or the rules made thereunder. We all know that there are 6 conditions for ITC. If someone has violated the provision, then yes, he cannot take his registration can be cancelled. Now, if the ITC has been taken on the basis of without satisfying the condition, then one condition that registration can be cancelled. Is there any other problem? See, person has taken the ITC without receipt of actual goods. What could be the other problem which is given in the law, which might we have read in the ITC chapter or somewhere else? What other consequences he may face if he has taken the ITC on the basis of fake invoicing? किसी ने अगर आईटीसी फेक इनवॉइस के बेस पर लिया है तो क्या क्या कंसिक्वेंस हो सकते हैं? एक कंसिक्वेंस मुझे समझ में आ गया कि दैट इज registration can be cancelled by the officer. Okay. Okay. Anyone can correlate with the Rule 86 capital A? Anyone can correlate with the blocking of ITC? Have we discussed this in the blocking of the input tax credit? Yes. So that could be the other consequence. There, the another can be the penalty, etc. Furnishing the details of the outward supply in GSTR1 as amended in 1A, one or more tax period which is in excess of the output supplies declared by him in the valid return in section 39. What is the valid return in section 39? Form number क्या है? What is the form number for the GST return under section 39? It is GSTR. Section 39 का रिटर्न कौन सा है? Section 39, which return is of section 39? GSTR 3B. So if the details in the GSTR 1 plus 1A, which is greater than the liability paid in the 3B, that is an anti-profiteering. Section 171 is talking about anti-profiteering, but now it is not relevant because sunset clause has been specified. So now this anti-profiteering has been discontinued. The concept, the section 171 has been discontinued. Violated the provision of the rule 86B. Anyone violated the provision of the rule 86B. What is that? And there were certain exceptions. Please tell me 2 exceptions at least. Rule 86B क्या कहता है? How much percentage I need to pay in cash? कितना परसेंटेज मुझे कैश में पे करना पड़ेगा? How much percentage I need to pay in cash? Geet, is it 2 lakh or is it 1 lakh? So the 1% liability has to be paid in cash, but there are the 5 exceptions. Tell me any 2 exceptions. You tell me 2 exceptions. So answer is the Rule 86B, which talks about if the liability, if the taxable value is more than 50 lakh, then need to pay 1% liability in cash. But whether my system would be able to identify, the answer is no. Whether my system would be able to identify, the answer is no. It need to be self-complied. It need to be self-complied. 1% liabilities to be paid in cash. What are the exception? Like government, if refund has been taken more than 1 lakh rupees, or income tax has been paid more than 1 lakh rupees for 2 consecutive return. Tick. And 1% liability has already been paid in cash from April to till date accumulated. Violated the third or fourth proviso to Rule 23 sub Rule 1. ठीक है. Just take a break of 10 minutes, then we will discuss these two clauses. Last two clauses we will discuss after the break. Ashok ji. About registration to be cancelled in as per the rule more than 1 lakh in each of the last 2 financial year. ठीक है Yogesh and Sanjay saying ठीक है Sanjay absolutely correct. So we were talking about violated the provision of the third and fourth proviso to the rule 23 sub rule 1. So 1 second, let me open the rule 23. So rule 23 which talks about revocation, just wait for some time, we'll reach and then we'll discuss. Okay. And then being a registered person required to file the return under 39(1) for each month or part thereof, or has not furnished the return for a continuous period of 6 months. It means he is a monthly taxpayer. He is a monthly taxpayer. Subsection 1 means he is filing the GSTR 3B on every month. Then in that case, if he has not furnished the return for a continuous period of 6 months, in that case, the registration can be cancelled by the officer. Second, if under the proviso to subsection 1, it means they are talking about the QRMP taxpayer. QRMP taxpayer required to file the GSTR 3B for every quarter and has not furnished for 2 consecutive tax period. The 2 tax period means the GSTR 3B has not been filed for 6 months, 2 quarters. Correct. So almost both are same. They are talking about 6 months or they are talking about the 2 quarters. Same. Correct. These 21H and 21I is being basically for this clause. Clause C. The any registered person who has not furnished the return as may be prescribed. What is the period prescribed? So it is being prescribed that if the taxpayer is monthly, then 6 tax period. If it is quarterly, then 2 tax period. Now, rule 21, capital A, suspension of the registration. Where a registration was applied for cancellation of registration under Rule 20, the registration shall be deemed to be suspended from the date of the submission of the application or the date from which the cancellation is sought, whichever is later, pending the proceeding for cancellation. So अगर किसी ने अप्लाई किया कैंसिलेशन के लिए तो जिस तारीख को जिस डेट को अप्लाई करता है या जिस डेट से कैंसिलेशन की वो डेट मांगता है whichever is later, उस तारीख से वो सस्पेंड हो जाएगा. Where the officer has reason to believe that the registration is liable to be cancelled under section 29 or rule 21, he may suspend the registration with effect from the date to be determined by him pending the completion of the proceeding under rule 22. Now try to understand rule 21A sub rule 2A is very important. Why? Let me tell you why. Just complete first and then tell you the reason. A comparison of the return furnished under section 39. So whatever the GSTR 3B has been furnished, the comparison would be made with whom? With the GSTR 1 or as amended through GSTR 1A or the inverse supplies. See, first comparison is GSTR 3B versus GSTR 1. Will it be for outward supply? Will it be for inward supply? Tell me, this comparison would be for outward supply or would be for inward supply? Correct. This comparison would be obviously for outward supply or the details of inward supplies based on the supplier GSTR 1 or 1A or such other analysis as may be carried out. So now they will compare the liability or they will compare the ITC in the second part. Will they compare the ITC or will they compare the liability? The answer is inward supply. It means the input tax credit that is taken in the GSTR 3B as compared to GSTR 2B. For such other analysis as may be carried out, shows that there are significant difference or anomaly indicating contravention of the provision of that thereunder, leading to the cancellation of registration. ठीक है. There is contravention of the provision. There is a contravention of the provision of the Rule 10A by the registered person. The registration of such person shall be suspended and shall be intimated in Reg 31 electronically on the common portal or by sending the communication to his email. There is a contravention of the provision of the Rule 10A. So we are talking about first the comparison between 3B and 1 or 3B and 2B. Second, there is a contravention of the Rule 10A, adding the bank detail. The registration shall be suspended and shall be intimated in Reg 31 electronically on the common portal or by sending the communication to his email at the time of registration or as amended from time to time, highlighting the said difference, anomaly or non-compliances, asking him to explain within a period of 30 days as to why the registration should not be cancelled. The registered person whose registration has been suspended, Rule 1, Sub-Rule 1, Sub-Rule 2, Sub-Rule 2A, shall not make the taxable supplies during the period of suspension. It means, does it mean that he can't do the business at all? If registration of a person has been cancelled, then does it mean that he can't do the business at all? The answer is no. They've added the explanation. They says that the meaning of cannot make the taxable supply means he can do the supply but cannot collect the tax. For the purpose, the shall not make any taxable supply mean that shall not issue the tax invoice and not charge the tax on supplies made by him during the period of suspension. A registered person whose registration has been suspended shall not grant any refund. So during the period of suspension, refund would not be granted. Sub-Rule 4. The suspension of the registration shall be deemed to be revoked on completion of the proceeding by the proper officer. Revocation shall be effective from the date on which the suspension had come into effect. Revocation shall be effective from the date on which suspension has come into effect. Means that it will be active from the date of suspension, provided that suspension of the registration under this rule may be revoked by the officer anytime during the pendency of the proceeding if it deems fit. Provided further, where the registration has been suspended under Sub-Rule 2A, it means comparison between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1 or comparison between GSTR 3B and GSTR 2B, correct? Or the non-furnishing of the bank account. Then, and the registration has already been cancelled by the proper officer, the suspension shall be deemed to be revoked upon furnishing of all pending returns. So if we file all returns that we have discussed, 29 2B and 2C, what was that? 1 minute. 29 2B and C, what was that? Non-furnishing of the return by the composition dealer for 3-month annual return after the due date, or non-furnishing of the return by the regular taxpayer. In that case, the registration will be deemed to be cancelled. The registration will be deemed to be cancelled. No, it will be deemed to, it will be revoked only after completion of all the pending return. So it will be deemed to be revoked upon furnishing of all pending return, provided that where the registration has been suspended for contravention of the Rule 10A, the registration has not been already cancelled by the proper officer, not already been cancelled. See, try to understand. A registration has been cancelled because of the return not filed, or suspension, not cancellation, suspension. The registration has been suspended. Second, the registration has been suspended because the bank account detail has not been added. Then this registration will be automatically revoked. Automatically, does not have any human intervention. So it will be deemed to be revoked on completion of all pending return. It will be deemed to be revoked on adding the bank account detail. Where any order having the effect of revocation, the provision of the 31 subsection 3 clause A and section 40 in respect to the supplies made during the period of suspension and procedure specified therein shall apply. Can anybody tell me what is the meaning of this 21A sub rule 5? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन है. इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? Any idea? It means suppose that person has made any taxable supplies on which he has not collected the tax. Now he will issue the revised invoice. Now he will issue the revised invoice. Now he will issue the revised invoice and shall report in the first return. Section 40 talking about the first return. What is the format of the first return? There is no specific format of the first return. Whenever you file the GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B, the first you will add in that. Okay. Now we are talking about revocation of registration. Revised tax invoice, not self invoice. It is a revised tax invoice, right? Now let's move further. That is the last part is revocation, and then we'll do the practical question. The registered person whose registration is cancelled by the proper officer, meaning thereby the revocation will be only for those cancellation whose cancellation is done by the officer. If I have applied suo motu basis cancellation, can I do the cancellation? Answer is no. Can I do the revocation? Answer is no. The revocation is only for registration who's cancelled by the proper officer. May subject 10B. Submit an application for revocation of cancellation to such officer within a period of 90 days from the date of the service of the cancellation at the common portal, either directly or through a facilitation center. What does it mean? That after cancellation by the proper officer, the application can be made for the revocation within a period of 90 days, provided that such period on sufficient cause being shown be extended by the commissioner for a further period of not exceeding 180 days, meaning thereby the number can be made, the revocation application can be filed first 90 days and further period of not exceeding 180. It means the total period will be 270. Correct. Total period would be 270 days. provided further that no application shall be filed if the registration has been cancelled for failure to furnish the return, unless the returns are furnished and amount due as tax in terms of the returns has been paid along with interest and late fees if any. Provided also that all return due to the period from the date of the order of cancellation till the date of the order of revocation shall be furnished within a period of 30 days from the date of the revocation. Let's read further. Provided that all the return due for the period from the date of the cancellation till the date of the order of revocation, all the pending return, all the returns due shall be furnished within a period of 30 days from the date of the order of revocation. Is there any link with the ITC chapter? क्या इस प्रोविजन का कोई लिंक है आईटीसी चैप्टर के साथ? जस्ट is there any linking with the ITC chapter? What is that? Oh, not this question is what is that link I'm talking about? एक बार रीड करते हैं 16 subsection 6. The registration is cancelled under section 29. Subsequently, it is revoked by the order, either under section 30 or pursuant to the order of court, tribunal, and where the availment of the ITC in respect to the invoice or debit note was not restricted in 16.4 on the date of the order of cancellation, the said person shall be entitled to take the ITC in respect of invoice or debit note in a return under section 39, which is filed up to 30th November following the end of the financial year. That is, might be already expired, or now this read this. For the period from the date of the cancellation or the effective date of the cancellation till the date of the order of revocation of cancellation. Now, they are talking about the returns for the period from cancellation to revocation, where such return is filed within 30 days from the date of order. So cancellation से revocation जितना भी returns आपका due हुआ, if that filed for the period of cancellation, so cancellation would be probably would be the date when the order has been issued, the date, or might be the date later on as per the application, or might be the retrospective date also. Officer has the power. So they're saying from the effective date of cancellation, from the effective date of cancellation till the date of revocation, where the return is filed within 30 days from the revocation, whichever is later. So now I can say this line 30 days ka concept, which was there earlier in the section 13.3030, has been added now in the section 16 subsection 6. I feel some reasoning would be this, okay, that all the return due from the cancellation to the revocation shall be furnished by the said person within a period of 30 days from the date of the order of revocation. Provided also that registration has been cancelled with retrospective effect, the registered person shall furnish all the return during the returns to the period to the effective date of cancellation till the date of the revocation within a period of 30 days from the date of the order. That is okay. Now the 30 subsection 2. Where the officer is satisfied for the reason to be recorded in writing that there are sufficient ground for revocation of cancellation, he shall revoke the cancellation in REST 22 within a period of 30 days from the date of the receipt of the application and communicate the same to the applicant. अगर ऑफिसर को satisfied है कि sufficient ground है for revocation, he shall revoke in REST 22 and inform to the applicant. The officer may, for the reason to be recorded in writing, reject the application and communicate the same to the applicant. The officer shall, before passing the order in 29(2)(b rejection, then issue the notice requiring him to show cause why the application should not be rejected, and applicant shall furnish the reply within a period of 7 working days from the order, from the SCM in REST 24. Upon receipt of information, the officer shall proceed to dispose the application in the manner prescribed in sub-rule 2 within a period of 30 days or such information or clarification from the applicant. So this we have talked about for revocation. Just quickly see if there is any circular which is not being clarified by me or not discussed by me. Okay, so that I will discuss. Death of the proprietor we have already discussed. Let me see where the business is transferred, whether on account of the succession or any other reason, including the transfer or change in the ownership due to the death of the sole proprietor to another person as a going concern. The transferee or the successor is to be registered with effect from the date of the such transfer or succession. When the business is transferred pursuant to the sanction of scheme, amalgamation, demerger, two or more company pursuant to the order of High Court or tribunal, the transferee is to be registered with effect from the date on which the ROC issue the certificate giving the effect to that order. ठीक है. Circular 57, we have already talked about that in case of the commission agent as per the AMC Act. That we will read. See, yesterday we have discussed about enrollment number. What was the enrollment number? एक बार बताना quickly. What was the enrollment number? What was the concept of enrollment number that we have discussed in the class? When it is required? So absolute person making the supply through other than 95. So if the person is unregistered, right? If the person is unregistered, Yogesh, okay, very nice, Ayush, good, Saminathan and Ankit. Okay, very nice. So what was that concept? The person making the supply of the goods through ECU, who is required to collect the TCS and having an aggregate turnover in the preceding and in the current financial year not exceeding the limit which is being prescribed. So it can be 10, it can be 20, it can be 40. We have discussed. Are exempted from obtaining the registration subject to the following condition. First is interstate taxable supplies cannot be made. He cannot make the supply of the goods through issue in more than one state. He shall be required to have the pen, and before making the supply, he shall declare on the common portal. What is the meaning of common portal? What is the meaning of common portal? Right, Yogesh, Ankit, Sanjay, Geet. It is www.gst.gov.in. GST portal. So you will declare the PAN number, you will declare the address, you will declare the state, which shall be subject to the validation on the common portal. Such person have been granted an enrollment number on the basis of the common portal on successful validation of the PAN declared above. Such person have been granted an enrollment number, and such person shall not be granted more than one enrollment number in the state or UT. No supply of the goods shall be made by the person through issue unless such person have been granted an enrollment number on the common portal. Such persons are subsequently granted registration under section 25. The enrollment number shall be ceased to be valid. That was basically the detailed discussion for the concept of enrollment number, which we have discussed in the last class. Commission agent we have already covered. Regarding the circular 71, we have already covered that at the time of submitting the registration of CTP or NRTP, who is required to make the advance deposition of the tax equivalent to the estimated liability, CTP will get a TRN for making the advance deposit of the tax, which shall be credited to the credit ledger. Acknowledgement will be issued after the deposit. Such advance tax amount should be calculated after considering the due eligible ITC which might be available to the casual taxable person. Why they not written NRTP? Why they have not written non-resident taxable person, only casual taxable person? Because NRTP is allowed to take the ITC only on NRTP is allowed to take the ITC only on import of goods, not all. These are the three circular only which is being discussed in this particular subject chapter. Okay. Now I think I have completed every part. Now let me move to the correct Ayush, Geeta, and everyone. Now let me move to the second. You have any question? So 1 hour we will do the discussion on the practical question, and then I will move to the Quick round of the question answer. This will be the agenda. Just allow me 1 minute so that I can open that particular ICAI study material. Mahadev Enterprise sole proprietorship opened the shopping complex and detailing in supply of the ready-made garment at multiple locations, that is Himachal, Uttarakhand, Tripura, in the month of the June. He has furnished the following details relating to the supply made at each multiple location for the month of the June. Intrastate supply within Himachal, intrastate supply of exempted goods 6 lakh. It is taxable goods 22.507. Intrastate supply of the non-taxable goods 21 lakh and 40,000. With the help of above mentioned provision, answer the question. Determine whether Mahadev Enterprise is liable to be registered under GST law. What is the threshold limit for taking the registration in this case? Assuming that it is not required to pay any tax on inward under RCM. Now tell me, what is the aggregate turnover of this particular taxpayer? You are requested to calculate the aggregate turnover of this particular taxpayer. My first question, whether this 21 lakh will be added in the aggregate turnover or not. Yes, it will be added. It will be added in the aggregate turnover. Because word exempt supply include three type of the supply. Word exempt supply include three type of the supply. एक बार exempt supply की definition बताना. As per section 2 clause 47, what are the three type of the supply? First is enumerated, second is exempted by way of notification under section 11 or 6 of IGST, and then third is non-taxable supplies, right? Right. So the aggregate turnover is 56,90,000. So he has to take registration in all the three states, only one state, only two state, or none of the state. Tell me, in which state he is required to take registration? In which state he is required to take registration? All three, any two, any one. Gita, it is not Uttar Pradesh, it is Uttarakhand. One is Himachal, second is Uttarakhand, and the third is Tripura. Now tell me, What are the four name of the special category state? What are the name of the four special category state? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland and Tripura. Whether Tripura is in a special category state? Answer is yes. What is the threshold limit? What is the threshold limit for Tripura? What is the threshold limit for Tripura? It is 10 lakh rupees. It is 10 lakh. It is 10 lakh. And therefore, because turnover exceed 10 lakh, need to take registration. So now tell me whether Uttarakhand, whether it is required to take registration in Uttarakhand. No, Uttarakhand because no tax. Okay. Nathan is saying okay, and Ankit is saying Uttarakhand. Ankit, why you are saying Uttarakhand? Or you mean to say Himachal Pradesh and Tripura? Ankit, Pandit, you mean to say registration required for Himachal and Tripura or Himachal and Uttarakhand? What was the language of section 22, subsection 1? You are required to take registration in the state from where you are making the taxable supplies. Recall the section 22, subsection 1, which talks about you are required to take registration in the state from where you are making the taxable supplies. Are you making the taxable supply from Uttarakhand? Answer is no, because it is a non-taxable supply. Therefore, you may skip. You may not require to take registration in Uttarakhand. ठीक है. Now, explain with reason. If Mahadev is dealing exclusively in the taxable supply of the goods only from HP, then what would be changed in your answer? So, if he is making exclusively the taxable supply of the goods only from 22 lakh 50,000 only for Himachal. So, in that case, within state, if turnover is not exceeding 40, does not require to take registration. Okay. Now the question, the language of the question is very slightly, I can say, ambiguity. It says that if Mahadev is dealing exclusively in the taxable supply of the goods only from Himachal, then you say you are not dealing in Uttarakhand and Tripura at all. Assumption number one. Assumption number two, you are making the supply from Uttarakhand and Tripura, but that is not liable to tax. So the answer would be very simple. If we say he is making the supply only from Himachal, you can say that he is not required to take registration because the threshold, for intrastate is 40, not 20. So I am also assuming that part only. Okay. But there could be the other assumption also. If Mahadev is dealing in the taxable supply of the goods and services only from Himachal Pradesh, Nee, Ayush, that agree. But you can take the assumption he does not have any taxable supply from other state. He does not have any supply in other state. He can say he's making the supply only from Himachal. That could be one assumption, right? Ayush. So वो वाला पॉइंट मैं बिल्कुल एग्री कर रहा हूं. See, to check the 40, to check the 20, to check the 10, are we talking? See, one part is very clear. Let me go to the provision again, once again. Let me go to the provision once again. What is the page number? 96. एक बार कुछ confusion है. Let me go back to the provision. I'm going to the section 22, subsection 1. What it is written? One second. Provided that the government may, at the request of the state and on the recommendation of the council, enhance the aggregate turnover from 20 to 40. Does it mean within the state or does it mean pan India turnover? एक बार please share your view. What does it mean? Does it mean pan India or does it mean only within the state? एक बार मुझे कंफर्म कीजिए. आयुष ने क्वेश्चन पूछा, वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन. Assume that he has made the supply Uttarakhand also. He has the supply from Tripura. Again, assume that the supply is not taxable. Okay, but will it be added in the annual aggregate turnover? Answer is yes. If answer is yes, then in that case, his turnover would be more than 40. In that case, your answer would be changed. So it is assumption based question. That part is also make it clear that if you are making the supply from out of the multiple state, if anyone is falling in the 4 state, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, then your aggregate turnover would be reduced to that limit, 10 lakh rupees. So my understanding on this question, Ayush and everyone, I'm telling again, my understanding on this question is they like to say if you are only have the supply from Himachal Pradesh and that to be taxable supply, that's it. It means in that case, the annual aggregate turnover is below 40. Below 40. Okay, therefore, there is no requirement. Are we on the same page? Are we on the same page, right? See, 2 points I like to clarify. One is if out of the any state, if there is one state which is special category, then my limit would be reduced to that state. That means the 10 lakh. Second, in the question number 2A, मैं एक बार क्वेश्चन नंबर 2A में वापस जाता हूं. In question number 2A, we will assume that if Mahadev is dealing exclusively in that taxable supply, and it is says that only from Himachal. So I assume that he does not have any supply from Uttarakhand, he does not have any supply from Tripura, then in that case we can say because it is taxable supply within the state, so limit would be 40. Ayush. ठीक है? Everyone. Now the second is, if Mahadev is dealing in taxable supply, only, see, try to understand. Again, he's saying only from Himachal, he's saying only from Himachal. Okay. Again, we will assume the same, that he does not have any other supply from any other state. Then limit would be, you will say the limit would be reduced to 20 lakhs. Very simple, right? Goods and service both are there. Therefore, the exclusive of goods wala limit will not be applicable. The limit would be 20. Third question. If Mahadev is dealing in the taxable supply of the goods only from Himachal and also affected interstate supply of the taxable goods amounting to rupees 4 lakh, what would be your answer? Other than handicraft and notified handmade goods. It will fall under mandatory category of registration. Can you tell me what is the relevance of other than handicraft goods? What is the relevance of this word other than handicraft goods? Because in case of the handicraft goods, we know that you can do the supply the handicraft goods and that handmade goods without taking the registration. So therefore, they have written other than that. ठीक है? Otherwise, it will fall under mandatory category of registration. I hope it is clear. Let's move to the another question. My God. LMN Private Limited, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, exclusively manufacture and sell the product X, which is exempted from GST-wide notification. Company sell the product X only within the state, Tamil Nadu, and therefore it is not registered in the GST. As of now, till now it is okay. There is no problem. All the inward supplies of the companies are taxable under forward charge. The turnover of the company in the previous year was 45. Company expected to grow by 30%. The company purchased additional machinery. The purchase price of the capital was 30 lakh. However, effective from 1st November, exemption available on X was withdrawn by the government and the GST at the rate of 12% was imposed thereon. Okay. From which date? 1st November. The turnover of the company for the half year ended on 30th September was 45 lakh. Examine the above scenario and advise LMN whether it need to get registered in the GST or not. You tell me which provisions you will give in your reply. Which all provision you give in your reply. First, I can understand the threshold limit. Okay, in this case, what would be the threshold limit? Is it 40? Is it 20? Is it 10? Is it 40? Is it 20? Is it 10? The answer is 40 lakhs. The answer is 40 lakh. Now his turnover exceed 40 lakh, whether he is required to take registration in the current year. Whether he required to take the registration in the current year. Answer is from 1st April, whether he is required to take a registration. Answer is no, because the company is making the supply which are fully exempt. If my supply is fully exempted, then I can say the registration is not required. Which provision you will add? कौन सा provision आप support में add करेंगे? Which provision you will add? The answer is you may add section 23 subsection 1. 23 nahi, not making taxable supplies, that you can add perfectly. Okay, nahi, but Geet, 20 to 1 will not work here in this case because the amount is more than 40. Amount is more than 40. You have to add 20 to 1, okay, but also 23 1, wherein you can say if you are making exclusively the exempted supply, irrespective of your turnover, you can take the exemptions from registration. That would be more appropriate. 20 to 1 you can add, but along with that you will add 23 1 as well. Then the company purchased the machine on 1st July. Whether company would be entitled to take the ITC on 1st July? Whether company would be entitled to take the ITC on 1st July? Whether company would be entitled to take the ITC on 1st July? Not on 1st July, because he is making the exempted supply. He is making the exempted supply. Now on 1st November it become taxable. Examine the above scenario, advise about the registration we have discussed. If the answer to the above question is an affirmative, advise whether he can avail the ITC on the additional machine. Answer is, say he cannot take the ITC on the additional machine on 1st July, but he can take the ITC on 1st November. What is the condition associated with that? He like to make the ITC on the taxable once his supply become taxable, he can take the ITC on the raw material inputs goods, including capital goods also. What is the additional condition that is associated? You will add in your reply. Any focus on the date, 1st July, 1st November, by highlighting the importance of the date. So I do agree capital goods cannot take the ITC on 1st July, but he can take the ITC on 1st November now. He can take the ITC on 1st November, right? Answer is yes, he can take the ITC on 1st November, Saminathan. Recall the section 18 subsection 1 clause D. Recall the 18 subsection 1 clause D, ITC in case of special circumstances. What is the additional thing which you will write? The 12-month wala provision. It should not be older than 1 year. Because it is not older than 1 year. Because it is not older than 1 year, therefore he would be entitled to take the ITC. Yogesh, whether he was registered initially, एक मिनट रुकिएगा. Answer is no. He has taken the fresh registration. He has taken the fresh registration. In that case, the concept of 30 days would not apply. Concept of 30 days would not apply. Why? Because that 30 days which we have discussed, that all pending return has been filed from the cancellation to revocation. Had it be cancelled and then revoke? Answer is no. It is a new registration. And most important thing, you all can give me the answer. This ITC would be taken through GSTR 3B. Will this ITC be appear in the GSTR 2B? Give me the answer. Will this ITC be appear in the GSTR 2B of this company? ये जो मशीन का ITC है, क्या उसके 2B में कभी appear होगा? Will it appear in this 2B? Answer is no, it will never appear in 2B. Why? Because at the time of the transaction, the SNP was unregistered. So the supplier has reported this transaction as B2C. And if it is a B2C, then it can never travel to the, it can never come to the, it can never come to the GSTR2B of recipient. Therefore, it will not come in 2B. Now, my second question, will this ITC be availed through GSTR3B? Will this ITC be availed through GSTR3B? क्या ये ITC 3B के माध्यम से लिया जाएगा? क्या ये ITC 3B के माध्यम से लिया जाएगा? Will it be availed through GSTR 3B? No. Section 18. ITC in case of the special circumstances will always be availed. ITC in case of the special circumstances will always be availed through ITC forms. In this case, ITC 01. Correct, Ankit? Saminathan, Ayush, Sanjay, minute we will resume at 9:15 and discuss further. ठीक है सर, एक बार ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर. अशोक जी. Uh, can you please quickly see when we let me see the quickly the charts so that we can ensure that nothing is being left out. So the person liable to be registered if turnover exceeds the threshold limit in case of the transfer of the business on account of the succession or otherwise in case of the amalgamation, taxable plus exempt plus export plus interest rate. Yes. Compulsory registration we have discussed. Not liable to be registration we have discussed. Voluntarily effective date we have discussed. Deemed registration we have discussed. And procedure we have discussed. Okay. Special procedure for CTP and RDP we have discussed. Amendment we have discussed. And cancellation we have discussed. Revocation we have discussed. So everything has been covered. Kuch, if you feel anything is being left, then like kindly let me know. If you feel yes, this will be provided by the institute. This will be provided by the institute very soon. S&P Private Limited we have discussed क्या नहीं S&P Private Limited कोयम्बटूर एक्सक्लूसिव मैन्युफैक्चर ये हमने कर लिया क्या नहीं हमने नहीं किया मैन्युफैक्चर एंड सेल द प्रोडक्ट विच इज एग्जेम्प्टेड ये एग्जेम्प्टेड वाला क्वेश्चन छोड़ देते हैं विल डू एक सेकेंड we'll do one next question. Rishabh Enterprises, the sole proprietorship firm, started an air-conditioned restaurant in Virar, Maharashtra in the month of Feb, wherein the customer are served cooked food as well as cold drink, non-alcoholic beverages. In March, the firms opened a liquor shop in Raipur, Uttarakhand, for trading of the alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Determine whether Rishabh is liable to be registered under GST with the help of the following information. First, serving of cooked food in Feb 550, in March 650. Service of the alcoholic liquor in Uttarakhand 5 lakh. Service of the packed food from restaurant in 50 in March. You are required to provide the reason for treatment of the various items given above. Now tell me, this correct? Yeah. What do you think? Just only one point, that always see the location. Always see the location. Why I am saying so? Because sometime the 40 lakh का limit would not be applicable to some state as per the notification. ठीक है, जैसे यहाँ पे उत्तराखंड है तो उत्तराखंड के लिए क्या 40 लाख है? आंसर इज नो, इट इज ओनली 20 लाख. द आंसर इट इज ओनली 20 लाख. तो वो चीज आप ध्यान रखना, दैट्स इट. ओके, व्हाट टाइम? शुभम, शुभंकर, शुभंकर मंगली, प्लीज कंफर्म द टाइम. So first tell me, what is the aggregate turnover in this case? What is the aggregate turnover in this case? Tell me a couple of questions. What is the aggregate turnover in this case? $20.5 lakhs. So when it was 20.5 lakh. If the February I'm talking about 5, 6, 6.7, 7 lakh is the February, so he's not required to take registration in the month of Feb. If I will add Feb and March, then it exceed 20 lakh. Would they require to take registration, or they can enjoy the benefit of the 40 lakhs? Can they enjoy the benefit of the 40 lakh, or still they require to take the registration because it exceeds 20 lakh? Why threshold is 20 for Maharashtra? Shouldn't be 40. Why the threshold is 20? Would not be 40. It is Maharashtra. It is Maharashtra. Then should be 40, right? The answer is the nature of the business is restaurant, and which is supply of the goods or supply of service. Answer is supply of service. Answer is supply of service. And therefore, the limit is 20 lakh irrespective of any state. Limit is 20 lakh irrespective of any state for service. Correct? So now it need to take registration in the month of the March within 30 days when the turnover crossed the threshold limit in both the state or only one state. In both the state or only one state. This is being sold in Maharashtra, this is being sold in Uttarakhand, and this is also being sold in Maharashtra. From Uttarakhand, it is making the alcoholic liquor from human consumption. So it is non-taxable supplies. It is non-taxable supplies, and therefore you can take the reference of 22 subsection 1. You are not required to take the registration in the state from where you are not making taxable supplies. You are required to take a registration in the state from where you are making the taxable supplies only. Am I right? Can you quickly tell me? Can you quickly tell me the name of the three transactions? Can you quickly tell me the name of the three transactions in short? Name of the three transactions which are non-taxable supplies. Name of the three supplies which are non-taxable. Quickly, in short, not in detail. 1, 2, 3, all in one shot. First is alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Second is 5 specified petroleum product, and what is third? Second is 5 specified petroleum product, and what is third? ENA. Correct. ENA. Ethyl neutral alcohol. ठीक है. Very nice, very nice. Let's move to the one more question with the help of the following information. In the case of the Giant Enterprises Jaipur, for the financially determine the aggregate turnover for the purpose of CGST Act, sale of the diesel on which VAT is levied. Supply the goods after completion of the work from the place of the Giant Enterprises. Supply the goods after completion of the job work from the place of the Giant Enterprise. Directly by the principal declaring the place of the giant as an additional place of business. मतलब यहां पे क्या किया, जयंत ने जयंत के प्लेस को एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस बताया, एंड देन फ्रॉम देयर दे आर मेकिंग द टैक्सेबल सप्लाईज. नाउ टेल मी, so fine, will it be added in the aggregate turnover or not of Jayant? Will it be added in the aggregate turnover of Jayant or not? Short reasoning would be better. Would it be added in the aggregate turnover of Giant? Would it be added in the AATO of the Giant enterprise? Answer is no. वो Giant principal है कि Giant job worker है? Tell me, the Giant is principal or Giant is job worker? He's a job worker. Correct. And we have discussed in that section 22, subsection 1, 2, 3, 4. In that, it is written that if it is sale by the job worker, it will not be added in the aggregate turnover of the job worker, right? It will be the supply of the principal. Correct. Tell me one thing. Can the principal make the supply of the Giant from the location of the Giant without adding the Giant place as an additional place of business? क्या प्रिंसिपल जयंत के प्लेस से जॉब वर्कर के प्लेस से सप्लाई कर सकता था विदाउट एडिंग द जयंत जॉब वर्कर लोकेशन एज एन एडिशनल प्लेस ऑफ बिजनेस? Answer is no. He has to add as an additional place of business. But is there any exception? Just read section 143 and try to give me the answer in the next class. Correct. If Jayant was registered, yes, you have given the answer. If Jayant was registered, then there is no requirement to add as an additional place of business. He can make the supply in second days if he is making the supply of the notified goods. Thank you so much, yaar. Very nice. क्या बात है. Very good, very good, very good, everyone. Now, export of the goods, 5 lakh rupees. Will it be added in the aggregate turnover or not? The answer is it will be added. The answer is it will be added in the aggregate turnover, right? ठीक है. Supply to its own additional place of the business in Rajasthan, 5 lakh. Recall the schedule 1. Supply the goods or services between distinct person or between related person. Without consideration, it will be the supply. So should I add? Should I add? Why? Very good reasoning. Same state and GST number is not different. If the GST number is not different, in that case, it will not be called as distinct person. And because it is not the distinct person, the schedule 1 will not apply. Schedule 1 talks about the supply of the goods between a related party or distinct party. Will it apply here? Answer is no, it will not apply because they are not the distinct person, and therefore it will not be added in the calculation. It will not be added in the calculation of turnover. Last, outward supply, the service on which GST is to be paid by the recipient and the reverse charge basis. So RCM to be added or not added? Should I add the RCM or should I not add the RCM? Tell me, is it an outward RCM or is it an inward RCM? Is it outward RCM or is it inward RCM? Is it outward RCM or is it inward RCM? It is outward RCM. So outward RCM will be added, inward RCM will not be added. So if I am a taxpayer, I am a supplier, and on my supply, the recipient is paying the tax, it will be added in my turnover, it will not be added in his turnover. Everyone is clear, and based on the answer, it appears that everyone is clear. What is the question? Aggregate turnover. So you have calculated the aggregate turnover, you have given the reasoning. Let's move to the question number 6. One more question. Rajesh Dynamic, having its head office in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, carries on the following activity with respected turnover in the financial year. Petrol 18 lakh in क्या करना है? It assumed that it does not have the taxable turnover crossing the threshold limit. Okay, fine. So tell me. So supply the petrol, will it be added or not? Supply the petrol, will it be added or not? Supply the petrol, will it be added or not? No. Yes, no. Yes, it will be added. Yes, it will be added. Whether the supplier need to pay the tax on this supply? Whether supplier need to pay the tax on this supply? ठीक. So all are on the same page. It will be added. Value the inward supply on which tax is payable under reverse charge. Will it be added? We have discussed. I think you will say yes, it will be added. Again, answer is no. Oh my God. Will he pay the tax or not pay the tax? Will he pay the tax or not pay the tax? Will he pay the tax or not pay the tax? He will pay the tax under RCM, but because it is an inward supply, it will not be added. Supplies of the transformer oil at Chennai, Tamil Nadu. So I'm assuming that it is not the petrol, diesel, 5 specified petroleum product. Therefore, it will be added in the aggregate turnover. Next is value the branch transfer from Chennai, Tamil Nadu to Bangalore, Karnataka without payment of consideration. Answer is added. So can I say this sentence? Please confirm. Can I say this sentence? That value of the branch transfer from Chennai to Bangalore, which is added as an additional place of the business in Tamil Nadu. Can we say this? Can I say this value, the branch transfer from Chennai to Bangalore location is added as an additional place of business in Tamil Nadu? Can we do this? Answer is no, because you need the separate registration. It is outside the state. Additional place of the business can be added if it is within the state. And last is value the taxable supply at Manipur branch. Value the taxable supply at Manipur branch. What is the, will it be added or not? Now tell me what is the total. Now tell me what is the total. Now tell me what is the total. $33 lakhs. Now it argues that it does not have the taxable turnover crossing the threshold limit of 40 lakh either at Chennai, Tamil Nadu, Bangalore, Karnataka or Manipur. Further, it believes the determination of the AATO is not required for the purpose of obtaining the registration, but is required for determining the eligibility for composition. Determine the aggregate turnover. You are required to review the technical veracity of the argument of the Rajesh. So now, what is your argument? Will it require the registration or will it not require the registration? What is the threshold limit in this example would be 10, 20 or 40, beyond which this Rajesh dynamic has to apply for registration. So when any one is the special category state, which in my example, Manipur, therefore the aggregate turnover would be reduced to 10 lakh. The threshold limit would be reduced to 10 lakh. Correct? In this case, because it is 33, so therefore the requirement of registration would be there. In short, what you will say? It believes that determination of the aggregate turnover is not required for registration, but is required for eligibility of the composition. What argument you will say? Any one or two line? It required for both. Section 22, which talks about aggregate turnover exceed the threshold limit, they need to take registration. They have not differentiated between composition dealer and regular dealer. So therefore, it will be required both. Composition additional requirement because there is an upper cap of the aggregate turnover. It should not exceed by such amount. Then therefore, it would be have that additional cap also. But yes, to calculate the threshold beyond which the registration required is applicable for both the cases, and therefore WTO play the role whether the person is required to take registration or not under regular category as well. So you may frame the argument accordingly. Now, shall we start the quick round of the question answer? Shall we start the quick round of the question answer? ठीक है. Randomly, whatever it comes to my mind, I will ask the question. ठीक है ना? Randomly, whatever it comes to my mind, I will ask the question. Revocation can be applied within how many days? Without permission, with permission. Revocation of the registration is applied within how many days? Without permission and with permission. Saminathan, is it 90 plus 90 plus 90? Or the provision has been changed? Earlier it was 90 plus 90 plus 90, total 180. Or something total, something different. Earlier it was 90 plus 90 plus 90, but now they have made one simple concept now. 90 days without permission, and it can be extended by additional 180 days with permission of the commissioner or any other specified officer. Total 270 days would be there. Total 270 days would be there. There are two types of the amendment. Tell me what type of the amendment. There are two categories of the amendment. there is two categories of the amendment we have discussed. The core field and the non-core field. Which type of the amendment does not require the officer approval? Which type of the amendment does not require the approval? Which type of the amendment does not require the approval from the officer? The answer is non-core field. Answer is non-core field. Correct? The answer is non-core field. Can you give me, there are four categories of the amendment under the core field. Tell me. There are four categories of the amendment under the core field. वो मुझे चार चीजें बताइए, चार नाम बताइए which fall under the core amendment. Okay, okay, okay. So fine. I've seen that. So पहला change in the legal name. दूसरा stakeholder change, director, partner, principal place of the business, and additional place of business. These are the four changes. Now tell me the change of the name which warrant the change in the PAN. Is it a core amendment? If the name is changed because of the permanent account number is changed, is it a core amendment? No, it is not the core amendment. It requires the fresh registration. It requires the fresh registration. Now, if I am composition dealer, then what is the time limit if I have not filed which return within how much period? Then my registration is liable to be cancelled by the officer. In case of the composition dealer, which return and what is the time period within which if I have not filed, then my registration is liable to be cancelled. Yogesh, abhi from acha, okay, fine, great, got it. Within 3 months from the due date of GSTR 4. And if it is regular dealer, then what is the frequency which return is not furnished for how many tax period then liable to be cancelled by the officer? Category number 1, if I'm a monthly taxpayer. Category number 2, if I'm a QRMP. If it is monthly, then 6 tax period. If it is quarterly, then 2 tax period. In case of QRMP, 2 tax period means 2 month or 2 quarter. अगर QRMP की बात करता हूं तो is it 2 tax period means 2 month or 2 quarter? Answer is 2 quarter. So both are same. Both are giving the time limit of 6 months. Both are giving the time limit of 6 months. But please note that in case of the QRMP, you cannot write 6 months. You should write 2 tax period. You should write 2 tax period. In one of the provision we have discussed, they will find the difference between GSTR 3B and GSTR 1, etc. So in the GSTR 3B and GSTR 1, will they compare the difference of outward supply or will they compare the difference of inward supply? The answer is outward supply. If I have taken the voluntary registration and I have not started the business with for how many periods, then my registration can be cancelled by the proper officer. The answer is 6 months. Answer is 6 months. In case of one category of the registration, we have discussed that if it is not having the physical presence in that state, he can add the main place in the part B. This provision is applicable for which category of the registration? Suppose I am in Gurgaon and I'm liable for, let's say, Rajasthan, but Rajasthan I do not have the physical presence, then I can add the Gurgaon in the part B. In which category? So where I have the principal place, in which category of the business or in which category of the transaction it is permitted? The TCS and TDS category of the registration. TCS and TDS category of the registration. CTP and NRTP is they can take the registration maximum for how many period? They can take the registration initially for maximum period of 90 days. Further, it can be extended to 90 more days. If I have applied the registration after 30 days, then what is my effective date of registration? Date of the grant of the registration certificate. Can you tell me any two category of the person who is not required for Aadhaar authentication? So government, UIN, non-resident. Okay, that is next. Last question for the day. Next and last question for the day. Once my registration is cancelled, then if there is any balance in the electronic credit ledger, what to do for that balance? What to do? Can I take the refund of that? Can I take the refund of the balance available in the electronic credit ledger? Answer is no. Refund to nahi milega. No, refund will be not be there. So, in case of the cancellation of registration, I need to pay amount. How much amount I need to pay? In case of the cancellation of registration, how much amount I need to pay? It will be the comparison of two and then whichever is higher, I need to pay. Tell me what is the first amount, what is the second amount, and higher I will pay the same to the government on the cancellation. And after that, I will hand over the same to the Board of Studies for summing up this session.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Arun sir. Am
Just
I
give me
audible?
1 minute. Just sir, 1 minute.
Okay.
Sir, 1 minute.
Sure, sir. Please continue.
So they will they will pay the amount equal to the credit that is available equivalent to the stock, capital goods or plant and machinery reduced by certain percentage point as may be prescribed, or tax liability, output tax payable on that goods, whichever is higher. So higher of these two will be paid at the time of cancellation. So from my side, this registration chapter is over. Now I am handing over to the board of studies to further taking up this session. So over to you.
Thank you so much, Arun sir, for taking this chapter very exhaustively, and you have covered this chapter in a very detailed manner. And not only the concepts are covered, but you have taken the questions so well. And I hope all the students have been probably understood this chapter. And if you have any queries, you can ask to the sir in the upcoming classes, or you can send your queries on the query portal also of ICAI Board of Studies. So as far as the registration chapter is concerned, first let us summarize the key points of the registration chapter. So what were the person who are the person liable for the registration? So in case of the transfer of the business on account of the succession, transferee will be the transferee is the person who is liable to the registration that from the date of the succession of the business. As far as the amalgamation of the demerger is concerned, transferee will be the person who will be liable for the registration. Sorry, I think there is a person who is asking something. Anybody has any query? Okay, let me continue with the topic. So, in case of the transfer, in case of the amalgamation or the demerger, transferee will be the person who will be liable to the registration as on the date of the order of the court. So, moving ahead, what is the aggregate turnover? If you sum up the taxable supplies, exempt supplies, export and interstate supplies, so it will be constituted as the aggregate turnover, and it will be computed on the all India basis for the same pen. For the same pen, the aggregate turnover will be considered. Aggregate turnover will be considered for the same pen on the all India basis. Now, what will be the threshold limit for the purpose of the registration? If you have the special category states, if you are in the special category states like Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura, the category for the threshold will be the 10 lakhs, either for supplying of the goods or for supplying of the services or both. If you are operating in Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand, Pondicherry, and Telangana, the applicable threshold limit is 20 lakhs. For all other states, if you are selling only goods, the threshold limit is 40 lakhs. But if you are selling the services also, sorry, if you are supplying the services or also, so the threshold limit will be the 20 lakhs. So what are the compulsory registration cases? Who is the person who is liable to be the compulsory registration irrespective of the threshold limit? First, the person who is making the interstate supplies. Second, the casually taxable person who does not have the fixed place of the business. Third, the person receiving the supplies, which is payable under the reverse charge. Fourth, the e-commerce operator who are notified for the tax payable under Section 9, subsection 5. Non-resident person who does not have the fixed place of the business in India. The person who is required to deduct the TDS under Section 51. Person who supplies on behalf of some other taxable person, like agent or the principal, agent of any principal. The supplier other than the notified in the section 9.5, but who supply the services or who supply the goods through the e-commerce operator. Every e-commerce operator who is required to deduct the TCS is also liable to be compulsory registered. Every person who is supplying the OIDR services from the place outside India, to the place inside the India, but to the person who is not registered under the GST. So he will also be liable to the registration, compulsory registration. Any input service distributor, you might have been read about the input service distributor in the chapter of the ITC. So he's also liable he is also compulsory required to be registered. Person supplying the online gaming from a place outside India, any online gaming, any person who is supplying the services of the online money gaming from the person from the place outside India to a person in India. Person or the classes of the person notified by the central government or the state government. Moving ahead, who are the person who is not liable to the registration? So there are some exemptions. There are some relaxations which is given to some people for not compulsory registration, for not being liable for the registration. First, who is exclusively engaged in the exempted supplies of the goods or exempted supplies of the services. Second, the agriculturalist, but the agriculture is only limited to the supply of the produce which is out of the cultivation of the land. Third, person making only the reverse charge supplies except the supplier of the metal scrap. Fourth, the person making the interstate supplies of taxable services up to 20 lakhs. Person making the now fifth point is person making the interstate supplies of notified handicraft goods and notified handmade goods, but the limit here is only 20 lakhs. Any casual taxable person making the interstate supplies of notified handicraft goods, even the casual taxable person is also not liable toward the registration if he is supplying the interstate supply is there of the notified handicraft goods or notified handmade goods up to the 20 lakhs. Now, any person making the interstate supply of the goods through e-commerce with aggregate turnover does not exceed the threshold limit and making the supply in more than one state or the union territory. Person making the supplies of the services through e-commerce other than the supplies uh, uh, specified under section 9.5 but up to the aggregate turnover of the 20 lakhs only. All the limits which have been mentioned at the 20 lakhs will be replaced by the 10 lakhs in case of the special category states like Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur and Nagaland. Now moving ahead, so when and where the person is where to apply for the registration, when you have to apply for the registration and where you have to apply for the registration. So when you are liable for the registration under section 22 or 24, so in every state when you are become to liable to the registration, if you have to give the application, within a 30 days from the date on which you are on which he becomes liable to the registration. If you are a casual taxable person, it is required to give the application 5 days prior to the commencement of the business. A person who makes a supply from the territorial waters of the India, so he is required to apply for the registration in the coastal state where the nearest point of the appropriate baseline is located within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable for the registration. Moving ahead, so now voluntary registration. Any person who is not required for the registration under section 22 or 24, he may get himself registered voluntary also. In case of any agencies of the United Nations, multinational financial institutions, and other organizations, instead of the registration number UIN, unique identification number is issued. So what will be considered as the effective date of the registration? If the application has been made within 30 days of the applicant becoming liable for the registration. If the person has given the application within the 30 days of the liable for the registration, the effective date will be considered as the date on which he becomes liable for the registration. However, if the application is submitted after the 30 days, so that in that case, effective date would be the grant of the registration. Now the deemed registration. So in case you have applied for the registration, but the application is not being rejected. In case the application is not being rejected, it would be considered as a deemed registration. However, if the application is being rejected, so it would be deemed as the it would be deemed to be the rejection of the application for the registration under the CGST Act. Now, the procedure for the registration. As far as the procedure is concerned, the procedure has been divided into two parts. First, part one, and the second, the part two. In the part one, you have to submit your PAN number in the form REG01 on the GST Common Portal. The PAN is being validated from the CBDT database, and the OTP is sent to the mobile number and the registered mail ID. After the OTP is being entered, the temporary reference number, the TRN, has been generated to the applicant on the mobile and the email address. Using that TRN, applicant shall electronically submit the application in the part B of the application form along with the specified documents at the common portal. As far as the Part B is concerned, it contains the details such as the constitution of the business, the jurisdiction, the option for the composition, date of the commencement of the business, reason to obtain the registration, address of the proper place of the business, and nature of the activity out thereon. If you have the additional place of the business, you have to that is also to be mentioned in the Part B of the registration. Now, also, you have to add the bank account details of the authorized signatory, Aadhaar authentication also. All these procedures will be incorporated in the part 2 of the registration process. On the receipt of the such a application, an acknowledgement in the prescribed form shall be issued to the applicant electronically. A casual taxable person applying for the registration get an TRN for making the if there is an casual taxable person who is applying for the registration, he will get the TRN only after making the advance deposit of the tax on the estimated liability. On the estimated, suppose he is a taxable person, so he have to make the advance deposit in the electronic cash ledger, and only an acknowledgement is issued after the tax set deposit. Application shall be forwarded to the proper officer. Application then after and proper officer after considering the requirements, he will grant the registration, and the procedure is being given in the part 2. Now, the special procedure for the registration of the casual taxable person and the NRTP. The casual taxable person is the person who has registered business in one state, but he want to operate the business, he want to effect some supplies in the other states also, but he is not having the fixed place of business in that specific state where he want to effect his supplies. So in that state, he will operate as a casual taxable person, and such a person need to register in the state from where he seeks to supply as the casual taxable person. Now, the non-resident taxable person. Non-resident taxable person who is a foreigner and occasionally want to effect the supplies from any state in India, and for that he needs a GST registration. As far as the amendment of the registration is concerned, so now after that there is a amendment, cancellation of the suspension of the registration and revocation of the cancellation of the registration. Procedure for the cancellation of the registration and the revocation of the cancellation of the registration. So all these topics have been comprehensively covered by sir and also summarized in the study material in the latest recapitulate chapter. So if you have any query, you have an option to ask it on the query portal of the ICAI. So with all these things, let us conclude this session with a good note. Thank you so much, sir. And for anything, if you have anything to ask, you can ask. You can ask me. You can ask through the chat box, and you can ask to sir. Let us wrap up the session. Is there any query? Okay, let's end this meeting. Yes, Mr. Ayush, soon, as far as the updated chapter of the registration, you will get, you will soon get that module on the website where you can see the updated chapter. And as far as the revision is concerned, you will get the topic of the latest recapitulate in that updated chapter itself. Also, you can refer the statutory updates for the updations. Okay, let us move. So let's wrap up the session. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, all the students. Okay, sorry. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay.